Alright, we are going to use the figure to answer the question. So the figure is not drawn to scale, so we're not going to use a protractor or a ruler to measure any angles or lengths. But we are going to use the figure to answer the question. So number 1 says, if line M is parallel, remember those two lines, that symbol means parallel, to line N, how many angle measures do you need to know all of the angle measures? And the answer here is just 1. If we know one angle measure, we can figure out every other angle on this picture as long as we know that line M and line N are parallel. Because of those relationships that we learned about when we have parallel lines cut by a transversal, we did that discovery activity and learned the different types of relationships between the angles. So here we only have to know 1. And we'll look at that a little in class. If we know 1, how do we find the rest of them? And then number 2, which of the following must be true for line M to be parallel to line N? So again, we want to think about those relationships we learned about when we have parallel lines cut by a transversal. What is special about our angle relationships? So number 1 says that in order for M to be parallel to N, the measure of angle 1, so let's find that on the picture, plus the measure of angle 2 has to equal 180. Well, that is a true fact. The measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 should equal 180 degrees because they form a line, a straight angle, but that doesn't guarantee that the lines are parallel. So that is not the correct answer. While it's a true statement, it's not the correct answer to the question. All right, let's look at letter B. Letter B says that angle 1, so let me erase this. Angle 1, let's highlight that, is congruent to angle 3. So they're saying if this statement is true, then line M and line N are parallel. Again, angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent because they are vertical angles, but that does not prove that line M and line N are parallel. So again, true fact, but not what the question is asking us here. It's not going to help us show that M and N are parallel. Letter C, angle 4 must be congruent to angle 5 in order for M and N to be parallel. So let's find angles 4 and angle 5 on the picture. Alright, so angle 4 and angle 5 are consecutive interior angles. And we know that when you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, consecutive interior angles are not congruent. So this is not the right answer. For these lines to be parallel, angle 4 and angle 5 would have to be supplementary, which means their measures would add up to 180 degrees. So it is not C. So let's look at D. D says in order for line M and line N to be parallel, that would be true if angle 2 was congruent to angle 6. So let's find angle 2 and angle 6 on our picture. And it looks like angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding angles. They're on the same side of the transversal and they're in the same spot. And we know that when we have parallel lines cut by a transversal, corresponding angles are congruent. So letter D would be the correct choice here.